In the heart of New York, beneath the dazzling lights of the city that never sleeps, shadows stretch farther than the eye can see. Beyond the Broadway stages and the bustling sidewalks, in the quiet corners of forgotten buildings and the echoing halls of ancient estates, there are stories whispered, half-believed, yet impossible to forget. Stories of footsteps when no one is there, of faces pressed to windows long abandoned, of voices calling your name in the dark. New York is more than skyscrapers and subways. It is a state soaked in centuries of history, with every corner holding the imprint of those who came before. Some never left. Their laughter, their cries, their tragedies are stitched into the very brick and stone. And if you stand still long enough, you might hear them. Tonight, we will descend into the haunted heart of New York. We will walk the creaking floors of grand hotels, where ghostly guests never check out. So dim the lights. Let the hum of the city fade away. And follow me into the 20 most haunted places in New York. Perched atop a steep hill in Manhattan's Washington Heights neighborhood, the Morris Jumel Mansion stands as the city's oldest surviving house. A grand colonial structure built in 1765. Its stately white facade and sweeping views of the Hudson River make it a striking landmark. But beyond its architectural beauty lies a history woven with revolution, love, betrayal, and death. The mansion's walls, thick with centuries of stories, seem to pulse with the lingering energy of those long gone, drawing visitors not only for its historical significance, but for the ghostly legends that have grown around it. During the American Revolutionary War, the Morris Jumel Mansion played a crucial role as General George Washington's temporary headquarters. In the summer of 1776, following the British evacuation of New York City, Washington and his troops used the mansion as a strategic base, preparing for further military actions. It was here that Washington planned troop movements and held meetings with his officers, the very rooms echoing with the tension and urgency of a young nation fighting for its freedom. Some say the general's spirit still lingers, his presence felt in moments of quiet reflection within the mansion's grand halls. After the war, the mansion changed hands several times until it was purchased in 1810 by Stephen Jumel, a wealthy French merchant. His wife, Eliza Jumel, would become the mansion's most famous and infamous resident. Eliza's life was marked by ambition, resilience, and scandal. Born into poverty, she rose through society's ranks by marrying Stephen and transforming the estate into a social hub for New York's elite. She hosted lavish parties and gatherings, filling the mansion with the sounds of music, laughter, and whispered intrigues. But behind Eliza's outward charm lay a turbulent personal life. Her marriage to Stephen was fraught with conflict, and after his sudden and mysterious death, some speculate it was more than just an accident. Eliza shocked society by marrying Aaron Burr, former Vice President of the United States. Shared a brief and bitter union with Eliza that ended in divorce amid rumors of betrayal and deception. Despite this, Eliza remained fiercely attached to the mansion, living there until her death in 1865. Visitors and staff at the Morris Jumel Mansion often report encounters with a spectral figure believed to be Eliza herself. She is most commonly seen wearing a flowing purple gown, her presence ethereal and elegant. Witnesses describe her gliding silently across the grand staircase, her movements graceful yet otherworldly. Sometimes she is spotted peering out from the upstairs windows, her gaze distant as if contemplating the many decades that have passed since her time. The mansion's long hallways and richly furnished rooms have been the setting for many unexplained phenomena. Some visitors feel sudden chills or experience the sensation of being watched. Footsteps echo where no one walks, and doors open or close on their own accord. There are even stories of objects moving mysteriously, hinting at unseen hands at work. These occurrences add to the mansion as mystique and deepen the connection between the present and the past. The ghostly presence of Eliza Jumel is often described as more curious than malevolent. Some say she watches over the mansion as a guardian of its history, preserving the legacy of a life marked by both glamour and hardship. Others believe her spirit is bound to the house by unresolved emotions, lingering amid the echoes of her dramatic life story. The mansion also holds traces of General Washington's time there. Some visitors report a solemn, commanding presence in certain rooms, an intangible aura that commands respect and reflects the weight of leadership during a pivotal moment in American history. The combination of these spirits, the determined revolutionary and the ambitious socialite, creates a unique and layered haunting, a mingling of patriotism and personal drama. Today, the Maurice Jumel Mansion operates as a museum, inviting the public to explore its storied past and architectural splendor. Guided tours highlight both its historical importance and its supernatural tales, allowing visitors to experience the mansion's dual legacy as a site of revolution and romance, of life and afterlife. Walking through the rooms, one can imagine the footsteps of soldiers, the whispered secrets of lavish parties, and the silent glide of a ghostly figure in purple. For those who believe in the paranormal, the mansion offers a rare glimpse into the way history and spirit intertwine. Its haunting is not one of terror, but of presence and enduring connection to the lives that shaped the house and, by extension, the city around it. The Maurice Jumel Mansion reminds us that the past is never truly gone. It lingers, visible in fleeting shadows and the whisper of a gown on an empty staircase. Visitors leave with more than memories of a beautifully preserved colonial home. They carry the sense that they have touched a thread connecting centuries. A moment where history breathes and the spirits of Manhattan, as earliest days, still walk among the living. The Amityville Horror House in Amityville, Long Island, stands as one of the most infamous and controversial haunted locations in the world. Its reputation forever cemented by a horrific crime and a string of unsettling events that followed. On the night of November 13, 1974, the quiet suburban neighborhood was shattered when 23-year-old Ronald DeFeo Jr. brutally murdered his parents and four younger siblings as they slept in their beds. Using a .35 caliber rifle, he moved from room to room with chilling precision. Each victim was found face down, with no signs of struggle, and neighbors reported hearing no gunshots. This strange detail has puzzled investigators and fueled speculation ever since. The house, a large Dutch colonial with distinctive quarter-moon windows, quickly became the epicenter of whispered rumors and morbid curiosity. Many wondered how such an atrocity could take place without anyone hearing a thing, and whether the house itself held some dark, unexplainable power. In December of the following year, George and Kathy Lutz purchased a home at what seemed like a bargain price. Aware of its bloody history, but optimistic about starting a new life with Kathy's 3 children. What they found inside would drive them away in less than a month, leaving nearly all their belongings behind. Doors and windows slammed shut on their own. The temperature in certain rooms would drop drastically without reason, while other areas seemed unnaturally warm. The air was thick, heavy, and charged, as if the walls themselves were holding a secret. Green slime reportedly oozed from the walls and keyholes, a grotesque substance that defied explanation. George claimed he would wake every night at exactly 3:15 a.m., the approximate time of the DeFeo murders, often drenched in sweat and overcome by an unshakable feeling of dread. Outside, in the snow, he once found a trail of hoof-like tracks that began and ended abruptly, as though some creature had materialized and vanished into thin air. Kathy experienced vivid nightmares about the murders. She began to feel as though something was watching her constantly, and at times, she swore she saw a dark, shadowy figure moving silently through the halls. The children were affected too. One of them reportedly befriended an unseen entity named Jody, described as a large, pig-like creature with glowing red eyes. One evening, Kathy saw those eyes staring in through a second-story window, only to disappear when she screamed. A priest who came to bless the home reported hearing a deep, commanding voice telling him to get out. The blessing was left unfinished, and the priest later became ill. Over time, the family's personalities began to shift. George became increasingly irritable and withdrawn, while Kathy's health declined. The final night in the house remains largely unspoken of by the Lutz family. They have refused to give a full account, only hinting that the events were too terrifying to relive. Whatever happened, it convinced them to flee the next day, never to return. They left behind clothes, furniture, and personal belongings, abandoning their dream home and its nightmares in the dead of winter. The story of the Amityville Horror spread rapidly, capturing the public's imagination. Books and films sensationalized the events, often blurring the line between fact and fiction. Skeptics argue that the haunting was a fabrication, a hoax fueled by financial gain and media attention. They point to inconsistencies in the Lutz's accounts and the lack of physical evidence for some of the more extraordinary claims. Paranormal investigators, however, maintain that the house holds a residual energy tied to the violence and fear that once filled it, and some believe it is a site of genuine malevolent activity. Over the years, subsequent owners of the Amityville home have reported little or no paranormal activity, suggesting that whatever plagued the Lutz family may have left with them, or that it chooses its victims selectively. Still, the house continues to draw attention from the curious, the thrill-seekers, and the believers in the supernatural. Though the iconic quarter-moon windows have been altered and the address changed in an effort to discourage trespassers, its dark legend endures. Whether the hauntings were real or imagined, the Amityville Horror House remains an unsettling reminder of the thin boundary between reality and nightmare. The brutal murders that took place within its walls are an undeniable fact, forever staining its history. And for those who believe in the paranormal, the Lutz family, as harrowing 28 days, are a chilling testament to the possibility that some places absorb the darkness of what happens within them and never let it go. Even now, when the wind sweeps through Amityville and the winter nights are quiet, some locals claim they can feel an oppressive stillness as they pass by the house, as though the shadows inside are still watching, waiting. And if you believe the stories, the Amityville Horror House is not just a location, it's a warning. Some homes, once touched by unimaginable evil, can never truly be at peace. Rolling Hills Asylum, located in East Bethany, New York, is a sprawling and eerie complex steeped in a dark and tragic past. Established in 1827, it originally served as a poorhouse, a place designed to shelter the mentally ill, the homeless, orphans, and criminals. Over the years, the institution grew, housing thousands of souls who, due to circumstances beyond their control, found themselves trapped within its walls. The harsh realities of life in the asylum left an indelible mark on the building, a residue of sorrow and pain that some say still lingers in the shadows today. From the outset, conditions at Rolling Hills were grim. The poorhouse quickly evolved into a place where many patients were forgotten by society. The mentally ill, often misunderstood and mistreated during that era, lived in cramped quarters under strict supervision. Orphans and the homeless had little choice but to seek refuge there, their fates entwined with those of criminals, serving sentences or awaiting punishment. Disease and despair were common, and the mortality rate was tragically high. Many who entered the institution would never leave, their bodies buried in unmarked graves on the grounds or elsewhere. The vast building, with its long, echoing hallways and empty, cold rooms, seems to breathe with the memories of those who suffered within. Visitors to Rolling Hills often speak of an oppressive atmosphere, a weight in the air that presses down upon them. Some say they hear whispers just beyond the edge of hearing. Faint voices carried on the wind through broken windows and cracked walls. The creaking of rusted hinges and the soft patter of unseen footsteps echo through the halls, sounds that suggest restless spirits still roam the asylum. Among the many reported entities, one spirit has gained particular notoriety. Roy was a former patient at Rolling Hills, known for his enormous stature. Standing at nearly 7 feet tall, due to a condition called gigantism, he was an imposing figure in life, and many believe his presence endures in death. Numerous visitors claim to have seen his towering shadow, lurking in the darker corners of the asylum or moving silently down the hallways. Those fortunate or unfortunate enough to encounter Roy often describe feeling a gentle tap on the shoulder, a subtle but unmistakable reminder that he is near. Unlike many restless spirits, Roy's presence is often described as protective rather than malevolent, as if he watches over those who enter the asylum. However, Not all encounters are so benign. Many witnesses report hearing blood-curdling screams that seem to rise from nowhere, sudden slams of heavy doors that echo through empty corridors, and the unmistakable sound of dragging footsteps that follow them closely, yet disappear when they turn to look. These noises often come without explanation, occurring in places where no living soul is present. Some visitors have fled in terror, overwhelmed by the palpable sense of dread that hangs thick in the air. The asylum's basement is particularly notorious among ghost hunters and thrill seekers. It is said to be the epicenter of paranormal activity, a place where the cries of the past are most audible and the presence of spirits is strongest. Cold spots, a sudden and inexplicable drop in temperature, common here, as if unseen forces draw the warmth from the air itself. Several investigators have captured electronic voice phenomena, EVPs, in the basement, with voices pleading for help or whispering names that no living person can answer to. Rolling Hills also carries a reputation for mysterious disappearances and strange accidents. Over the decades, there have been reports of people vanishing without a trace, their fates never fully explained. Some say that these incidents contribute to the restless spirit population, with new souls trapped in the asylum's haunted halls. Others believe that the building itself is a kind of labyrinth, capable of shifting and confusing those who wander too far into its depths. Visitors often speak of losing their sense of direction, feeling disoriented as if the asylum's architecture is alive and shifting around them. Stories of hauntings at Rolling Hills often include the chilling sensation of being watched, even when alone. Visitors have reported sudden feelings of panic, inexplicable sadness, and overwhelming loneliness, emotions that seem to stem from the residual pain absorbed by the building over nearly 2 centuries. Many who enter are changed by the experience, describing a profound connection to the lost souls who remain. A reminder that the asylum's tragic history is never far from the surface. The legacy of Rolling Hills Asylum extends beyond its physical structure. It serves as a somber reminder of a time when mental illness was misunderstood and those afflicted were marginalized and confined to places like this. The stories of those who lived and died here echo through time, giving voice to the voiceless and shining a light on a dark chapter in history. This blend of human tragedy and supernatural lore makes Rolling Hills a place of fascination and fear. Despite its grim reputation, Rolling Hills has become a popular destination for paranormal enthusiasts and history buffs alike. Guided tours offer glimpses into the building's past, blending documented history with first-hand accounts of unexplained phenomena. These tours provide an opportunity to explore the haunted halls and experience the eerie atmosphere that has captivated so many. Visitors are often struck by the juxtaposition of beauty and decay, the grandeur of the asylum's original architecture, contrasted with the peeling paint, shattered windows, and creeping vines of abandonment. Whether one believes in ghosts or not, the stories of Rolling Hills Asylum compel attention. The building stands as a monument to those forgotten by society and to the unexplained mysteries that still defy understanding. It reminds us that some places carry the weight of history so heavily that the past never fully fades away. For those brave enough to step inside, the experience is unforgettable. The echoes of the past reach out across the decades, and if you listen closely, you might hear the whispered pleas, the fading footsteps, and perhaps even the gentle tap of Roy's hand on your shoulder, an invitation to remember the souls who once called Rolling Hills Asylum home. The Sagamore Resort, perched on the serene shores of Lake George in Bolton Landing, New York, has been a beacon of luxury and elegance since it first opened its doors in 1883. Nestled among the rolling Adirondack Mountains, the resort boasts breathtaking views of the shimmering lake and sprawling golf course. Guests have long been drawn to its opulent rooms, refined dining, and tranquil beauty. Yet beneath its polished veneer lies a world steeped in history, mystery, and whispers of those who never quite checked out. The resort's grand history dates back to the late 19th century, when it was established as a haven for the wealthy elite seeking refuge from the bustle of city life. The sprawling estate, with its stately architecture and lavish interiors, has welcomed presidents, celebrities, and dignitaries throughout the decades. But amidst the glittering parties and elegant tales began to emerge stories of ghostly encounters and unexplained phenomena that have become as much a part of the resort's identity as its luxurious accommodations. One of the most famous legends is that of a young boy who is said to haunt the resort's golf course. According to numerous accounts, this playful spirit darts across the fairways, laughing with the innocence of youth. Golfers have described feeling the sudden, inexplicable presence of someone nearby, only to catch a glimpse of a small figure running swiftly in front of them. Balls that were carefully placed on tees or greens have been mysteriously knocked away or tossed into the air, seemingly by invisible hands. On several occasions, guests have reported seeing the boy's bright eyes and youthful grin before he vanishes into thin air, leaving only the sound of laughter lingering in the cool Adirondack breeze. The origins of this spectral child remain unknown, though some speculate he could be the spirit of a boy who frequented the resort during its early days, or perhaps the descendant of a family connected to the land. Regardless, his playful antics are generally considered harmless, and many visitors find themselves charmed by his mischievous presence, even as an undeniable shiver runs down their spine. Inside the main building, the ethereal atmosphere continues. The grand ballroom, with its polished wood floors and crystal chandeliers, has become the stage for one of the resort's most enchanting and mysterious hauntings. Numerous guests and staff have reported witnessing an elegantly dressed couple dancing silently under the soft glow of chandeliers. Their forms shimmer like candlelight, translucent and delicate, moving in perfect harmony as though caught in an endless waltz from another era. These ghostly dancers often appear late at night or in the early hours of the morning, their graceful movements accompanied by faint strains of classical music that seem to float through the air. Some who have witnessed the apparition describe a bittersweet sensation, a mixture of awe and melancholy, as if they are watching a moment of pure joy, frozen in time, forever preserved by the spirits themselves. The identity of this couple remains a mystery. Theories abound that they may be former guests or residents who met tragic ends, their love story immortalized within the resort's walls. One popular legend speaks of a young couple from the early 1900s, separated by circumstance and reunited only in death, whose spirits now dance together every night, defying the boundaries of time. Beyond the ballroom and golf course, other unexplained phenomena have been reported throughout the Sagamore Resort. Guests have recounted hearing footsteps in empty hallways, doors creaking open and closed without cause, and the occasional flickering of lights that cannot be attributed to faulty wiring. Some claim to have felt sudden drops in temperature or an inexplicable sense of being watched, sensations that add to the building's aura of mystery. The resort staff have grown accustomed to these occurrences and often share their own chilling stories. One longtime employee recalls a late-night cleaning shift when she saw a figure dressed in period clothing crossing the lobby. When she called out, the figure vanished without a trace. Another recounts hearing a piano playing softly in a closed room, only to find the instrument untouched and silent when she investigated. The Sagamore Resort embraces its haunted reputation, occasionally hosting ghost tours and special events that invite guests to explore the supernatural side of the historic hotel. These tours weave together documented history and personal testimonies, painting a vivid picture of the lives once lived within the resort's walls and the lingering spirits who remain. The haunting presence at the Sagamore is not merely a source of fear, but also one of fascination and wonder. It serves as a reminder that even in places of great beauty and luxury, the resort's ghosts are intertwined with its history, a spectral thread that connects the modern-day visitors with those who came before. For many, the blend of history, mystery, and natural beauty creates a unique experience where the line between the living and the dead blurs, and where moments of otherworldly enchantment await just beyond the corner of the eye. Guests leave the Sagamore not only with memories of stunning views and fine hospitality, but also with stories of laughter from unseen children and the graceful dance of shadows in the ballroom. Whether the spirits of the Sagamore Resort are guardians of the past or simply echoes of long-forgotten lives, Their presence adds a haunting elegance to this lakeside retreat. And for those who believe, the resort is more than a destination. It is a place where history and mystery waltz hand in hand, forever entwined beneath the Adirondack stars. Fort William Henry, perched on the southern tip of Lake George in New York, stands as a somber monument to one of the bloodiest chapters of the French and Indian War. Built in the mid-18th century, this British fort was intended to secure the frontier and protect settlers from the ongoing conflict between French and British forces, along with their Native American allies. But what unfolded here in 1757 left a mark far deeper than the earth, a tragedy so profound that many believe the spirits of the fallen continue to haunt the site to this day. The year 1757 saw the fort besieged by a vastly superior French army under General Montcalm. After weeks of relentless assault, dwindling supplies, and mounting casualties, the British garrison, commanded by Lieutenant Colonel George Monro, was forced to surrender under terms negotiated between the French and British commanders. The British soldiers and civilians within the fort were to be allowed safe passage to Fort Edward, but the aftermath was far from peaceful. As the British columns marched away from the fort, they were ambushed by French-allied Native American warriors, many brutally, and survivors bore witness to horrors that would haunt them forever. The event became infamous, immortalized in literature and history as a grim testament to the savagery of frontier warfare. Today, the grounds of Fort William Henry are a place of reflection and remembrance, where the echoes of battles still ring in the air and the restless dead refuse to be forgotten. Many who walk the grounds describe an uncanny atmosphere, a thick, almost tangible tension that settles over the site, as if the very soil is steeped in the anguish of those who perished. When the fort is quiet, especially in the fading light of dusk or the stillness of night, witnesses report hearing the distant crack of gunfire, the clash of steel, and the haunting war cries of men long dead. These sounds seem to rise from nowhere and fade just as mysteriously, leaving an unsettling silence in their wake. Apparitions of soldiers clad in red British coats have been spotted pacing along the fort's outer walls, their figures sometimes clear enough to discern muskets and tricorn hats. Witnesses say these ghostly troops move with purpose, as if reliving their final moments, only to dissolve into thin air when approached. At times, small groups of these apparitions appear to be drilling or preparing for battle, caught in an eternal loop of duty and despair. Visitors have also experienced more personal encounters with the fort's spectral inhabitants. Several have reported feeling the brush of an invisible hand on their shoulder or arm, a fleeting but unmistakable touch that sends chills down the spine. Others have recounted hearing their names whispered softly in the wind, voices that carry both warning and sorrow, yet have no identifiable source. These whispers often come when no other visitors are near, intensifying the feeling that the spirits here are reaching out from another time. The fort's museum and reconstructed buildings are no strangers to strange happenings. Staff and guests have witnessed unexplained cold spots, flickering lights, and the sudden sensation of being watched. Some have heard footsteps echoing through empty corridors, or felt sudden drops in temperature that defy explanation. Paranormal investigators who have conducted studies at Fort William Henry report capturing electronic voice phenomena, EVPs, voices pleading for mercy or shouting orders, as well as unexplained shadows caught on camera. One particularly eerie tale comes from a tour guide who was leading a group through the fort late one evening. As they passed through the powder magazine, a sudden, icy gust swept through the room. The guide felt a strong pressure on her chest, as though someone was pressing against her, and the air filled with a faint, musky scent, reminiscent of gunpowder and sweat. The group later reported seeing a dark silhouette standing near the doorway, only to vanish before anyone could react. The fort also holds a tragic place in the hearts of local Native American communities, whose ancestors participated in the siege. Some have expressed that the site is a sacred ground where spirits of warriors from both sides still linger, bound by the violence and loss that took place. This complex history adds layers to the fort's haunted reputation, making it a place not just of conflict, but of remembrance and reverence. Over the years, Fort William Henry has become a magnet for historians, paranormal enthusiasts, and tourists alike. Its haunting stories are woven into the fabric of its tours and educational programs, providing a powerful reminder of the human cost of war. Visitors leave not only with knowledge of the fort's history, but also with a lingering sense that the past is never truly gone here. For some, the hauntings are a source of fear. For others, they are a profound connection to history, a way to honor those who fought and died on this battlefield. The fort's spirits, whether real or imagined, serve as a testament to the endurance of memory and the way the echoes of the past continue to shape the present. In the quiet moments, when the lake's surface lies still and the breeze is barely a whisper, the sounds of 1757 seem to rise again. The crack of muskets, the shouts of soldiers, and the anguished cries of the fallen. Fort William Henry is a place where history breathes, where the brave and the broken linger in the shadows, and where visitors walk alongside the ghosts of a long-forgotten massacre. The Shanley Hotel, nestled in the quiet town of Nepanek, New York, stands as a haunting reminder of a bygone era. Built in 1845, this historic establishment has long been shrouded in mystery and dark tales, earning a reputation as one of the most haunted hotels in the state. Over the decades, the Shanley Hotel has witnessed a succession of owners, tragic accidents, and inexplicable events that have woven a thick tapestry of sorrow and supernatural activity within its aged walls. From its earliest days, the hotel was a bustling center for travelers, miners, and locals alike, offering respite and warmth amid the surrounding wilderness. But beneath its welcoming facade, the Shanley was a place where fate often turned cruel. Fires ravaged parts of the building more than once, claiming lives and reducing cherished spaces to ash. Accidents occurred frequently, some fatal, casting long shadows over the hotel's history. The stories of untimely deaths and lingering grief have never quite left the building, leaving an atmosphere heavy with remembrance and unresolved pain. Many guests over the years have shared chilling experiences that defy explanation. One of the most commonly reported phenomena is the sound of phantom footsteps echoing through the empty hallways. Even when the corridors are deserted, the unmistakable cadence of someone walking, sometimes hurried, sometimes slow, can be heard approaching and retreating, as if unseen residents move through the hotel at their own pace, oblivious to the living. The footsteps often stop abruptly at certain doors or intersections, hinting at invisible presences lingering just out of sight. Another eerie occurrence involves doors that lock and unlock themselves without any apparent cause. Guests have found their room doors mysteriously shut or opened, even when no one else is around. These inexplicable movements often happen during the late hours of the night, adding to the sense of unease among those staying in the hotel. Some have reported doors slamming suddenly, the sharp noise reverberating through the halls and jolting them awake. Adding to the spectral lore of the Shanley Hotel is the frequent sound of children's laughter, a haunting yet playful noise heard when no children are visible or known to be nearby. This disembodied laughter seems to float through the hallways, soft and distant, but unmistakably joyful. It has a bittersweet quality, evoking both innocence and something lost to time. Visitors often describe the laughter as coming from multiple sources at once, weaving through the air like a ghostly chorus that fades just as one tries to locate its source. Among the hotel's many spirits, the most well-known and perhaps most poignant is that of a young girl who once belonged to a former owner of the Shanley. According to legend, this child tragically drowned in a well near the property many years ago. Since then, her presence has been felt in various ways throughout the hotel grounds. Guests have reported glimpsing a small figure, sometimes in a pale dress, wandering the halls or standing quietly near windows. Her expression unreadable and her movements slow and deliberate. Many who have encountered the little girl's spirit describe a mixture of tenderness and sadness. Some say she is playful, gently tugging at their hair or brushing invisible fingers against their skin, as if seeking comfort or connection. Others feel a deep, inexplicable sorrow in her presence, as if she carries the weight of her untimely death and the loneliness of the afterlife. Despite the melancholy, there is a sense that she means no harm, her spirit lingering as a reminder of the fragility of life and the persistence of memory. Staff members and longtime locals often speak of the Shanley Hotel with a mixture of reverence and caution, aware of the powerful energies that seem to permeate the building, of sudden cold spots that chill to the bone, or of fleeting shadows glimpsed from the corner of the eye. Some have even reported hearing whispered voices carrying through the halls, voices that fade when approached but leave an undeniable impression. Paranormal investigators have taken a particular interest in the Shanley Hotel over the years, drawn by the frequency and intensity of the reported phenomena. Many have recorded unexplained sounds on audio devices, children's laughter, faint conversations, and footsteps that don't match any living person's movements. Others have captured visual anomalies on camera, including orbs of light and shadowy figures that appear and vanish without explanation. Despite, or perhaps because of its haunted reputation, the Shanley Hotel continues to welcome guests seeking both history and a brush with the supernatural. For some, a stay at the Shanley is a thrilling adventure, an opportunity to explore a place where the past refuses to stay buried. For others, it is a place of solemn reflection, a reminder of lives lived and lost, and the mysteries that may lie beyond death. Walking through the Shanley Hotel today, one can't help but feel the weight of its stories. The faded wallpaper, creaking floorboards, and dimly lit corridors all speak of time passing, but memories lingering. The hotel's ghosts, whether playful or remind visitors that the line between the living and the dead is often thinner than we imagine. Many who leave the Shanley speak of an unforgettable experience, moments when the air seemed charged with presence, when unseen hands brushed against them, or when the distant laughter of children seemed to echo from another world. Whether these encounters are the product of active spirits or the vivid imaginations stirred by history, they add a layer of magic and mystery to a hotel already rich with character. The Shanley Hotel stands today not just as a place to rest, but as a living repository of stories and spirits. And listen to the echoes that reverberate through its halls, echoes of lives touched by tragedy and love, of playful innocence lost too soon, and of the enduring connection between past and present. For those willing to open their minds to the unknown, the Shanley Hotel offers a unique journey into the heart of a haunted history, where every creak and whisper tells a story, and every shadow might just be a friendly ghost waiting to say hello. The Kings Park Psychiatric Center, once a sprawling institution dedicated to mental health care, now stands abandoned and decaying on Long Island. Opened in 1885, it was one of the largest psychiatric hospitals in the United States, housing more than 9,000 patients at its peak. Its imposing brick buildings and endless corridors were designed to serve as a self-contained community. But over time, the facility became infamous for controversial and often brutal treatments, leaving behind a legacy of pain and suffering that seems to seep into every crumbling wall. At its height, Kings Park was a bustling center of psychiatric care. Patients from across the region were admitted for a wide range of mental illnesses, many spending years or even their entire lives within the hospital's confines. The hospital grounds were vast, including wards, treatment centers, recreational areas, and staff housing. Despite the initial mission to heal and care for the mentally ill, many patients were subjected to harsh and experimental treatments. Lobotomies, electroconvulsive therapy, and isolation were commonplace, left many patients mentally and physically scarred. The hospital's decline began in the mid-20th century, as advances in psychiatric medicine and changing societal attitudes led to deinstitutionalization. Patients were gradually released or transferred, and by the late 1990s, the facility was fully closed. Since then, nature has begun to reclaim the vast campus, but the eerie remains of the Kings Park Psychiatric Center still draw the curious, the brave, and those fascinated by the paranormal. Today, the site is a labyrinth of abandoned buildings, their windows shattered and interiors layered in dust and graffiti. The silence of the place is broken only by the creak of rotting wood, the whistle of the wind through broken glass, and the distant calls of birds reclaiming the ruins. But for those who dare to explore the crumbling corridors, the atmosphere is far from peaceful. Visitors and urban explorers who have ventured into the facility speak of an overwhelming sense of unease. Many report seeing shadowy figures lurking in the broken windows or fleeting glimpses of movement just beyond their line of sight. These apparitions often vanish when approached, leaving behind only a chilling emptiness. The cold air inside the buildings is notorious, with sudden drops in temperature, cold spots that seem to trail visitors, sending shivers down their spines even on warm days. The stairwells and long hallways of the hospital are frequently the stage for eerie sounds. Echoing screams, distant sobbing, and the murmurs of unseen voices have been reported countless times. Some explorers recount hearing footsteps following them down empty corridors, only to find no one there when they turn around. Doors creak open or slam shut on their own, and the faint sound of hospital equipment, the clatter of chains, the hum of machines seems to rise from the depths of the abandoned wards. Paranormal investigators have taken a special interest in Kings Park, using a variety of electronic devices. They have captured electronic voice phenomena, EVPs, that are disturbing in their clarity. Some of these recordings contain voices pleading for help, whispering names, or repeating words that suggest confusion and pain. One EVP caught on record features a desperate cry for mercy, echoing through an empty room, sending chills to everyone present. Another hallmark of the site is the feeling that the very building is alive, twisting and shifting in the darkness. Explorers often report losing their sense of direction, as corridors seem to lengthen or change layout, making it difficult to find the way back. The disorienting architecture adds to the overwhelming sense of dread that many experience while inside. The stories told by those who have entered Kings Park Psychiatric Center are often harrowing. One urban explorer described hearing a woman's voice crying softly in a room where no one else was present. Another spoke of a shadowy figure appearing suddenly in a window, its eyes glowing faintly before disappearing. A team of paranormal investigators spent an entire night in the facility, recording multiple EVPs and experiencing unexplained electrical disturbances, lights flickering and devices shutting down without cause. The history of Kings Park also feeds into its haunted reputation. Many former patients died within the hospital walls, their lives marked by illness and often neglect, refusing to fade away. Some believe that these restless spirits are trapped in an eternal cycle, unable to move on due to the trauma they endured. In addition to patient spirits, some believe that the ghosts of former staff members also roam the hospital. Nurses, doctors, and orderlies, who once worked tirelessly under harsh conditions, may remain bound to the place by duty or unresolved matters. Their presence is sometimes felt as a calming but watchful energy, contrasting with the more anguished spirits of the patients. Local residents often avoid the area after dark, recounting tales of strange lights flickering in the windows or unexplained noises drifting from the hospital grounds. The site has become a magnet for thrill-seekers and ghost hunters alike, eager to experience firsthand the paranormal activity that has been reported for decades. Despite its reputation, the Kings Park Psychiatric Center stands as a testament to a complex history, one that reflects evolving attitudes toward mental health, the harsh realities of institutional care, and the human lives caught in between. The building's ruins serve as a stark reminder of both past mistakes and the resilience of those who lived and died there. For those willing to explore the shadows of Kings Park, the experience is unforgettable. The air thick with echoes of despair and hope intertwined. Whether the paranormal activity is real or the product of imagination fueled by history, the sense of presence here is undeniable. Walking through the decaying corridors, visitors are reminded that some places carry the weight of countless souls, those who lived, suffered, and sometimes never left. Kings Park Psychiatric Center is more than a collection of abandoned buildings. It is a haunted monument to the complexities of the human mind and spirit, forever etched with memories that refuse to fade. For many, the lure of Kings Park is not just the thrill of ghost stories, but a chance to confront the shadows of history itself. And as long as its doors remain open to the curious and the brave, the voices of Kings Park will continue to whisper in the darkness, inviting all who enter to listen closely and remember. The Merchant's House Museum, nestled in the heart of Manhattan, stands as a remarkable time capsule of 19th century life in New York City. Built in 1832, this elegant Federal-style townhouse offers a glimpse into a bygone era, preserved with painstaking detail. But beyond its architectural beauty and historical significance, the house holds a darker secret. It is widely regarded as one of the city's most haunted landmarks, a place where the past refuses to stay buried. For nearly a century, the Treadwell family lived within these walls, raising their children, entertaining guests, and conducting their business amidst the bustling streets of Manhattan. The house was left largely untouched. Today, the Merchant's House Museum stands frozen in time, filled with original furnishings, personal belongings, and family portraits that evoke the rhythm of daily life in Victorian New York. But many visitors and staff say the house's atmosphere extends beyond mere history. It feels alive with the presence of its former inhabitants, as if the Treadwell family never truly left. Among these spirits, the most frequently encountered is that of Gertrude herself. She is often described as a graceful apparition, drifting silently through the rooms she once called home. Guests have reported seeing Gertrude moving gently through the parlor or ascending the grand staircase. Staff members working late into the night have heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps on the creaking wooden floors. Footsteps that stop abruptly when approached, as if she senses an unseen observer. A delicate fragrance, it seems to hover in the air with no apparent source. This subtle aroma adds a poignant layer to the experience, suggesting that the spirit carries traces of her earthly identity. Visitors have described moments when the temperature suddenly drops, cold spots appearing without warning in various parts of the house, as though invisible hands brush past them or a chill passes through the room. Lights within the museum have been known to flicker inexplicably, sometimes dimming or brightening with no electrical cause. On occasion, objects have been found, moved, or displaced, leaving staff puzzled and intrigued. These small disturbances create an eerie but intimate feeling, as if the Treadwells continue their routines, walking the halls, tending to household matters. The haunting of the Merchant's House Museum is not a story of terror, but one of lingering presence. The delicate intersection between history and the supernatural. It is a haunting marked by moments of quiet observation, gentle touches, and a persistent sense that the past is still unfolding within the museum's walls. This enduring connection to the Treadwell family is part of what makes the Merchant's House Museum so unique. It offers visitors not just a lesson in architecture or social history, but an invitation to step into a living narrative where the boundary between the living and the dead is thin. The museum's caretakers honor this legacy, balancing respect for the family's memory with an openness to the mysteries that surround their home. Beyond Gertrude, other spirits are believed to inhabit the house as well. The sounds of whispered conversations have been heard in empty rooms. Soft laughter echoes faintly during quiet hours, and the feeling of unseen eyes watching over the space is a common experience for those who linger after dark. Some visitors report the sensation of being gently touched or guided, as if the spirits are reaching out to communicate across the centuries. The Merchant's House Museum also preserves a rich archive of letters, diaries, and artifacts that paint a detailed picture of the Treadwells' lives. These documents reveal the joys and struggles of a family navigating a rapidly changing city, providing context to the ghostly encounters many experience. The emotional resonance of these stories adds depth to the haunting, suggesting that love, loss, and memory are woven tightly into the fabric of the house. Guided tours at the museum often include accounts of paranormal phenomena, allowing guests to hear firsthand the experiences of those who have felt the Treadwells' presence. These stories enrich the historical narrative, blending fact and folklore in a way that captivates visitors and encourages them to look beyond the surface. A moment of connection not only with history, but with something intangible and eternal. And sometimes those stories are alive, waiting patiently to be discovered. The Merchant S. House Museum offers a journey into a world where the old and the new coexist. Here, in this quiet corner of Manhattan, their lives forever etched into the very wood and stone. As visitors step through the front door, they enter a realm where history breathes. Shadows move softly, and the past never truly sleeps. The Merchant S. House Museum stands as a testament to the power of memory and the mysteries that dwell just beyond our sight, a place where the whispers of the Treadwells linger, inviting all who enter to listen closely and feel the gentle presence of those who came before. Letchworth Village, nestled in the quiet town of Thiels, New York, was established in 1911 with the noble intention of providing care and refuge for individuals with physical and mental disabilities. Conceived as a progressive institution, it promised a sanctuary where residents could live with dignity and receive treatment tailored to their needs. However, as the decades passed, the idealistic vision faded, replaced by stories of neglect, mistreatment, and suffering that have cast a long shadow over the sprawling campus. Today, the once bustling village lies abandoned, its crumbling buildings and empty playgrounds. Silent witnesses to a troubled past, many believe the restless spirits of former residents still linger among the ruins. At its peak, Letchworth Village was home to thousands of patients, spread across numerous wards and cottages that dotted the expansive grounds. Designed to be self-sufficient, the campus included workshops, farms, and recreational facilities, all aimed at providing residents with a structured environment. Families were encouraged to visit, and staff were tasked with not only caregiving, but fostering a sense of community and normalcy. Yet, behind the walls of this seemingly hopeful place, harsh realities unfolded. Throughout much of the 20th century, conditions at Letchworth Village deteriorated. Reports of overcrowding, inadequate staffing, and lack of proper medical care surfaced repeatedly. Many residents endured physical and emotional abuse, with some confined to isolation rooms or subjected to punitive measures that today would be considered cruel and unacceptable. The institution's dark reputation grew, fueled by accounts from former patients and employees who spoke of suffering hidden beneath the facade of care. As the decades wore on, medical advancements and shifting societal attitudes toward mental health care led to a decline in institutionalization. By 1996, Letchworth Village closed its doors, leaving behind an eerie tableau of deserted buildings, rusting playground equipment, and empty gardens overtaken by nature. The site became a magnet for urban explorers, historians, and paranormal investigators, intrigued by its haunting history. Those who venture into the remnants of Letchworth Village often describe an overwhelming atmosphere, an almost tangible weight of sorrow and despair that seems to cling to the crumbling walls and cracked windows. The silence is punctuated by strange sounds, faint cries, whispered voices, and the occasional clatter of unseen footsteps echoing through the abandoned halls. Visitors speak of cold, spot sudden drops in temperature that leave them shivering despite warm weather, as if unseen presences brush past or linger nearby. Ghost hunters have documented numerous paranormal phenomena at Letchworth Village. Electronic voice recordings (EVPs) frequently capture disembodied moans, urgent pleas, and unintelligible whispers that suggest restless spirits trapped in time. Some have reported strange apparitions, small shadowy figures darting just out of clear view, often near doorways or in darkened rooms. These fleeting shapes resemble children, evoking a poignant image of innocence lost and lives disrupted. One of the most unsettling reports involves toys left in empty rooms found mysteriously moved or rearranged, as if tended by invisible hands. A lone doll placed on a dusty shelf might be found lying on the floor moments later. A forgotten ball might roll gently across a hallway with no apparent cause. Such subtle but eerie signs reinforce the belief that the spirits of former residents remain tethered to the place they once called home. Visitors often share stories of an overwhelming sense of sadness that stays with them long after leaving the grounds. Some describe a heavy emotional presence that fills the air, a sorrow so profound it seems to echo the pain endured by the residents. This feeling is not accompanied by fear or anger, but rather a deep empathy, a connection to the human stories buried beneath decades of neglect and hardship. Despite the desolation, Letchworth Village remains a powerful symbol of the complexities of mental health care history in America. The site forces reflection on how society treated its most vulnerable members and challenges us to remember their lives with compassion rather than judgment. The haunting that persists here is not just supernatural, but also a historical reminder of the human cost behind institutional walls. Local legends speak of particular areas within the campus that are especially active. The old playground, where children once laughed and played, is now silent. But visitors report hearing the faint sound of laughter carried on the wind, or the creak of a swing moving back and forth with no one near. The cottages where residents lived are said to hold echoes of everyday life, footsteps pacing in empty hallways, whispers exchanged in vacant rooms, and the soft murmur of long-gone voices. Many paranormal teams who have investigated Letchworth Village emphasize the emotional intensity of the site. The spirits here, they suggest, are not malevolent, but lost, confused, and perhaps longing for recognition and peace. Some believe that the lingering energies are tied to the trauma of the past, the unresolved suffering and pain that cannot simply vanish with the closing of the institution. The village also serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of humane treatment and dignity in mental health care. The ghosts that haunt Letchworth are more than figments of imagination. They are echoes of real people whose voices, though faint, demand to be heard. Their presence urges visitors to confront uncomfortable truths about neglect and the consequences of societal failure. For those who visit today, Letchworth Village offers a haunting, unforgettable experience. The decaying buildings and overgrown grounds create an eerie, melancholic landscape, one where history and the supernatural intertwine. Walking through the abandoned wards, it is impossible not to feel the lingering presence of those who lived, suffered, and perhaps still watch from beyond. Whether one believes in ghosts or not, the legacy of Letchworth Village remains clear, a place marked by both hope and tragedy, where the echoes of the past refuse to be silenced. The spirits said to roam, its halls are reminders that behind every building and every shadow, there are human stories waiting to be remembered. Letchworth Village stands as a somber monument, not only to the struggles faced by its residents, but also to the resilience of the human spirit. In its silence and shadows, it challenges us to remember, to honor, and to never forget the lives that shaped its haunted history. Perched gracefully on the shores of Seneca Lake, Belhurst Castle is a stunning architectural gem, steeped in history and shadowed by legend. Built in the late 1800s, this majestic estate reflects the grandeur and romance of a bygone era, with its turrets, stone walls, and sprawling grounds offering breathtaking views of the lake's shimmering waters. But beneath its picturesque beauty lies a haunting tale, one that has captured the imaginations of visitors and locals alike for over a century. A tragic legend centered on a woman named Isabella, whose restless spirit is said to linger within the castle's walls and along the lake's edge. Belhurst Castle's story begins with Isabella, an opera singer of remarkable talent and grace. According to local lore, Isabella was a woman of passion and mystery, admired by many but pursued by dangerous enemies who sought to silence her voice and diminish her influence. Facing threats that grew more menacing by the day, she fled from the city to seek refuge in the castle, hoping the isolated estate would shield her from harm. The castle's remote location and fortified design seemed perfect for safety, but fate had other plans. One dark night, as Isabella hid in a narrow tunnel beneath the castle grounds, an old passageway, rumored to have been used for secret escapes, the earth suddenly gave way. The tunnel collapsed, trapping her inside, with no hope of rescue. Despite desperate attempts by those above, the passage remained blocked, and Isabella's cries were swallowed by the darkness. Her body was never recovered, and over time, the tragedy became woven into the fabric of the castle's history. Instead, her spirit remained bound to the estate, forever searching for freedom and peace. Visitors to Belhurst Castle frequently report eerie and inexplicable experiences that seem to confirm the presence of Isabella's ghost. Many have seen a pale figure dressed in a flowing white gown wandering the castle grounds, particularly near the lake's edge, where she is said to have spent her last moments. This apparition appears ethereal and delicate, moving silently through the mist as if caught between worlds. In the stillness of night, some guests claim to hear the faint, haunting strains of a woman singing an operatic melody carried by the wind across the water. The voice is beautiful, yet sorrowful, echoing the pain and longing of a soul trapped in eternal limbo. The song is said to rise and fall unpredictably, sometimes growing so clear that listeners can almost discern the words, only to fade away like a whisper, lost to the night. The castle's dining room is another focal point for supernatural activity. Numerous visitors and staff members have reported glasses shattering without explanation, their tinkling shards scattering across polished tables. These incidents occur suddenly, often in moments of silence or calm, leaving behind an unsettling reminder of the unseen presence that dwells within the walls. Some interpret the breaking glass as Isabella's frustrated attempt to communicate or manifest her anguish. Beyond the sightings and sounds, the atmosphere of Belhurst Castle itself seems charged with a peculiar energy. Cold spots appear unexpectedly in certain rooms and hallways, a stark contrast to the warmth outside. Shadows move just beyond the corner of vision, and fleeting glimpses of a white figure vanish whenever one tries to look directly. This presence is not necessarily malevolent, but undeniably persistent, a subtle reminder of the castle's tragic past. Staff and frequent visitors often speak of the castle as a place where history and legend intertwine, where the beauty of the surroundings belies the sorrow lingering beneath. The ghostly tales of Isabella have become part of the estate's identity, drawing tourists, paranormal enthusiasts, and curious souls hoping to catch a glimpse of the famed specter or hear the elusive song. Local historians have attempted to separate fact from folklore, piecing together Isabella's life from scant records and oral accounts. While some details remain elusive or embellished over time, the core tragedy, the mysterious disappearance and death in the tunnel, resonates deeply with those who visit. It serves as a haunting reminder of how love, fear, and desperation can shape a place's legacy. Belhurst Castle today operates as a historic hotel and winery. For many, a stay at the castle is not just about luxury and leisure, but an opportunity to step into a living story where past and present coexist. The blend of stunning views, elegant architecture, and ghostly lore creates a unique atmosphere that captivates all who enter. Even those who do not believe in ghosts often find themselves touched by the melancholy beauty of Isabella's tale, the image of a young woman trapped between worlds. Her voice, carried on the breeze, lingers in the imagination long after leaving the castle grounds. It is a story of loss and longing, a reminder that some spirits refuse to rest until their stories are told and their voices heard. Belhurst Castle's haunting legend enriches its history, adding a layer of mystery to an already enchanting destination. The castle stands as a monument not only to architectural splendor, but to the enduring power of memory and the human heart. In the quiet hours by Seneca Lake, when the moonlight dances on the water and the night is still, some say you can still hear Isabella's song, a delicate, sorrowful melody that echoes across time, inviting listeners to remember her story and feel the presence of a spirit forever tied to this beautiful, tragic place. The Dakota, standing proudly on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, is more than just one of New York City's most iconic and architecturally stunning apartment buildings. Since its completion in 1884, the Dakota has been a home to artists, musicians, and celebrities, weaving their stories into its very walls. But beyond its luxurious facade and historic reputation lies a darker, more mysterious side, one filled with ghostly whispers, apparitions, and unexplained phenomena that have fascinated residents and visitors for decades. Designed in the German Renaissance style, the Dakota's intricate facade turrets and gargoyles give the building an almost castle-like presence amidst the city's skyline. The interior reflects the same grandeur, with ornate woodwork, lavish staircases, and shadowed corridors that seem to echo with the passage of time. But it's within these grand halls and apartments that the paranormal stories take root, blending history and haunting into one enigmatic legacy. Perhaps the most famous spirit said to haunt the Dakota is that of John Lennon, the legendary musician and member of the Beatles. Lennon made the Dakota his home for several years until his tragic murder in 1980, just outside the building's entrance. Since then, numerous residents have reported encounters that they attribute to his lingering presence. Many describe feeling a comforting, peaceful energy in certain parts of the building. An aura some believe is John's spirit watching over the home he once loved. Visitors and neighbors have seen shadowy figures in the halls resembling Lennon's silhouette, or glimpsed a man with his unmistakable round glasses appearing briefly before vanishing. Others recount hearing the faint strains of music or the soft sound of a guitar being strummed when no one else is around. It's as if John Lennon's creative spirit refuses to leave, forever intertwined with the Dakota's legacy. Beyond Lennon's presence, there is the mysterious apparition of a young girl, often spotted by residents wandering the corridors or peering from windows. Dressed in turn-of-the-century clothing, her figure is said to be delicate and ethereal, as though she belongs to a different time altogether. Some claim she watches silently from the shadows, her eyes filled with melancholy and curiosity. Though no definitive identity has been attached to this girl, many speculate she might be a former resident or someone connected to the building's early years. The Dakota's haunting is not limited to these two spirits. Tenants and visitors have reported a wide range of paranormal phenomena that add to the building's eerie reputation. Phantom footsteps echo along the wooden floors, their owners invisible to the living eye. Doors open and close on their own. Sometimes knocking sounds come from empty rooms or hallways, as if unseen guests are trying to communicate. The ornate halls, with their dim lighting and intricate details, seem to hold the memories of countless lives. At times, residents have felt sudden chills or cold spots, a stark contrast to the city's usual hustle and bustle. These unexplained drops in temperature often occur without warning and seem concentrated near certain apartments or stairwells, sparking speculation that these are portals where the living and spirit worlds brush against one another. Many who live or have lived in the Dakota describe a unique sensation, a humming energy that courses through the building, an invisible current that seems to vibrate with secrets and stories. It's an energy that is both unsettling and comforting, as if the building itself remembers its past occupants and keeps their spirits close. The Dakota's history is filled with notable residents beyond John Lennon, many of whom have contributed to its aura of mystique. Celebrities, artists, and performers have all passed through its doors, and their legacies seem to ripple through the building's fabric. Some ghost stories are linked to these figures, while others appear to stem from the building's long existence. A silent witness to over a century of joy, tragedy, and mystery. The building's name, the Dakota, is itself a curiosity, rumored to have been chosen because the location was once considered remote and far from the center of Manhattan. Much like the Dakota Territory at the time, this sense of isolation may have contributed to the legends of spirits lingering unseen, quietly observing a city that changed rapidly beyond the Dakota's walls. Staff members at the Dakota often speak about strange occurrences they experienced during their shifts. Maintenance workers have found lights flickering inexplicably, elevators stopping between floors, or mysterious drafts that chill them despite closed windows. Doormen and concierges have reported hearing voices or footsteps when the building is otherwise empty, adding layers to the growing collection of paranormal anecdotes. Many of these stories have been passed down through generations of residents, becoming part of the building's lore. Some tenants welcome the ghostly presence, believing the spirits add character and history, while others find the experience unsettling, preferring the company of the living to the unseen. Tourists and paranormal enthusiasts often visit the Dakota, drawn by its eerie reputation and connection to John Lennon's tragic death. Guided tours sometimes include tales of ghostly sightings and unexplained events, allowing visitors to experience firsthand the enigmatic atmosphere that permeates the building. Whether skeptic or believer, few leave indifferent. Sensing the Dakota's powerful blend of history, artistry, and the supernatural. The Dakota's ghosts are not simply specters of the past. They are reminders of the building's enduring legacy and the lives intertwined within it. They evoke reflection on love and loss, creativity and tragedy, and the thin veil that separates life from death. The spirits seem to linger, not out of malevolence, but from a deep connection to a place they once called home. For those fortunate enough to live or visit the Dakota, the experience is unforgettable. Walking through its halls, you can almost feel the echoes of piano music, drifting from an unseen room, or glimpse the faint outline of a figure disappearing behind a corner. The building breathes history and mystery, inviting all who enter to listen closely to its whispered secrets. The Dakota is more than just a landmark or a residence. It is a living storybook, a place where architecture meets artistry, and where the ghosts of the past walk alongside the present. Its haunted reputation enriches its allure, reminding us that every building holds memories, and some memories are never truly forgotten. In the heart of Manhattan, amid the city's constant change and energy, the Dakota stands as a timeless sentinel, guarding its secrets, welcoming its guests, and sharing its tales with those who dare to listen to the voices from beyond. Perched on the southern shore of Otsego Lake, the Oda Saga Resort Hotel in Cooperstown stands as both a luxurious retreat and a hotbed of ghostly legends. Since its grand opening in 1909, the hotel's stately architecture, manicured grounds, and sweeping lake views have drawn travelers from across the country. But beneath its elegance lies a lingering presence, one that whispers through its corridors and stirs in the quiet hours of the night. The first thing visitors often notice is the stillness. Not the ordinary kind found in upscale hotels, but a deeper, almost watchful silence. Some say it's the building itself, breathing slowly, holding on to memories that span more than a century. Guests describe the sensation of being observed from shadowy hallways or dim corners of the lobby. No matter how many people are present, the air feels charged, as though unseen eyes are always near. Many believe the root of the hauntings stretches back to the hotel's earliest years, when parts of the upper floors served as a school for girls during the off-season. The sound of youthful laughter still drifts through the hallways, sometimes soft and distant, sometimes sudden and close enough to startle. Staff working late at night often hear the rapid patter of small footsteps overhead, only to find empty, locked rooms when they investigate. One recurring report comes from the third floor, where a certain hallway seems to hold the most activity, as though a curious child is trying to get their attention. Doors that were firmly latched open on their own, and rocking chairs set neatly against the wall have been found swaying gently without any sign of a breeze. The main dining room, with its grand windows and elegant chandeliers, is another focal point for the unexplained. On quiet evenings, faint piano music has been heard drifting through the air. Even though the instrument sits untouched and unplayed, the notes are slow and deliberate, echoing off the high ceilings as if someone from another time is performing a private recital. Patrons have paused mid-conversation to listen, only for the sound to fade abruptly when they try to trace its source. Some guests have experienced a strange phenomenon of temperature shifts, moving from a comfortably warm hallway into a pocket of air so cold it steals the breath. These icy drafts seem to follow certain people, persisting even when they change rooms or floors. In more than one instance, visitors have awakened in the middle of the night to find the blankets pulled halfway down their bed, a chilling gust sweeping over them, and the distinct impression that someone or something is standing just beyond the edge of the mattress. The lake itself seems to play a role in the hotel's ghostly reputation. Otsego Lake, long known to the native people of the region as a place of spiritual significance, carries with it a history of legends and mysterious energy. Some paranormal researchers suggest that this natural energy source acts as a battery for supernatural phenomena within the certain lakeside rooms are notorious for producing strange occurrences, mirrors fogging without reason, faint knocks from the walls, and, in rare cases, the appearance of a misty figure gazing out toward the moonlit water. Employees who have worked at the Otasaga for decades speak of becoming accustomed to its quirks. Many have their own stories. A shadow passing just out of sight while they set tables, hearing their name whispered when no one is there, or feeling an unseen presence brush past them in the stairwell. Some even claim to have seen a woman in early 20th century attire walking calmly down the main hall, only to vanish when she reaches the corner. Perhaps the most unsettling reports come from guests who insist they have been visited in their sleep. One couple described waking in the early hours to see a translucent child standing at the foot of their bed. Her head tilted curiously as she stared at them. Before they could speak or move, she simply dissolved into the air. Another visitor told of waking to find an older woman sitting quietly in the chair by the window, looking out over the lake. The witness described her expression as both sad and peaceful. And then, like a faded photograph, the figure was gone. Despite the eerie tales, the Otasaga is far from an unwelcome place. Many who encounter its spirits describe them as benign, even playful. Rather than feeling threatened, guests often leave with a sense of wonder, as though they have brushed against a history that still breathes within the walls. The blend of beauty and mystery seems to draw both living and departed souls to linger in its rooms. To this day, the hotel continues to operate as one of Cooperstown's most beloved landmarks, offering fine dining, luxurious accommodations, and, for those who seek it, a brush with the supernatural. Whether it's the laughter of unseen children, the faint notes of a phantom piano, or the whisper of lake air moving through a sealed hallway, the Otasaga's echoes of the past ensure that every visit carries the possibility of an encounter you'll never forget. The Chelsea Hotel in Manhattan is more than just a building. It's a living archive of New York City's creative and turbulent history. Rising 13 stories on West 23rd Street, the hotel first opened in 1884, originally designed as a cooperative for artists and intellectuals. Over the decades, it became a sanctuary for free spirits, musicians, poets, and dreamers. Legends of music and literature walked its halls. Bob Dylan, Patti Smith, Leonard Cohen, and countless others. But with such an intense mix of passion, artistry, and tragedy, the Chelsea also became a place where the past refuses to stay silent. Guests who check in expecting a quirky, bohemian atmosphere sometimes get far more than they bargained for. Many report ghostly encounters with former residents who never truly checked out. Among the most famous is poet Dylan Thomas, who spent his final days in the Chelsea before being rushed to the hospital, where he died in 1953. His presence is said to linger, with visitors describing a sudden, almost suffocating heaviness in the air near the room where he stayed. Some claim to hear the faint murmur of a deep Welsh voice reciting poetry in the dead of night. Another restless spirit often linked to the Chelsea is Nancy Spungen, the troubled girlfriend of Sex Pistols bassist Sid Vicious. In 1978, Nancy was found dead in room 100, stabbed in the abdomen under mysterious circumstances. Guests near that room have reported hearing the sounds of a woman crying softly, as if in pain, or an angry male voice shouting, followed by a chilling silence. On rare occasions, people have even claimed to see a pale young woman with blonde hair standing in the hallway, only for her to vanish when approached. It's not just famous names that haunt the hotel. Countless artists, writers, and drifters called the Chelsea home, and some appear unwilling to leave. Housekeepers and maintenance workers tell of doors that slam shut without any breeze, as if unseen hands are expressing frustration. Others hear footsteps pacing above them in rooms that have been vacant for years. Even stranger are the whispers. Faint, indistinct voices that seem to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Many visitors describe sudden waves of intense emotion that hit them without warning. One guest claimed that while lying in bed, they felt a surge of sadness so strong it brought them to tears, accompanied by the faint scent of cigarette smoke, even though the room was non-smoking. Others speak of bursts of inspiration, as though the spirits of past creatives are still feeding ideas into the minds of the living. It's as if the Chelsea's walls themselves are soaked in decades of artistic energy, both light and dark. The building's history only adds to the sense of mystery. During its long life, the Chelsea has weathered changes in ownership, partial closures, and extensive renovations. Yet no matter how much is updated or modernized, the atmosphere remains thick with a strange blend of melancholy and magic. Longtime residents have spoken of building moods, days when the air feels heavy and oppressive, or nights when the hallways seem unusually alive, as if the whole structure is holding its breath. Some paranormal investigators believe the Chelsea acts as a kind of psychic amplifier, absorbing and replaying the emotions of those who live there. With so many stories of heartbreak, excess, and creative obsession, it's no wonder the hotel seems charged with supernatural energy. Its narrow corridors, creaky floors, and dimly lit stairwells only enhance the impression that you're re-walking through a space where time is unstable, where past and present overlap. One chilling account comes from a musician who stayed at the hotel while recording an album nearby. Late one night, he awoke to see a man standing at the foot of his bed, wearing a rumpled suit and holding what looked like a notebook. The figure didn't move or speak. He simply stared for a moment before fading into nothing. When the musician described the encounter to a longtime resident, they nodded knowingly and said, "Sounds like one of the old writers checking in on you." Even the staff, who have seen nearly everything, admit that the Chelsea has its moments. Some avoid certain rooms at night, citing feelings of being watched or sudden drops in temperature that leave them shivering despite the building's heat. Others have seen lights flicker in empty hallways, or heard faint strains of music drifting through the air, only to find no source when they investigate. What makes the Chelsea's hauntings so fascinating is that they aren't entirely sinister. While there are certainly moments of unease, the crying woman, the angry shouts, the sudden chills, there is also a deep sense of connection to the building's storied past. Many guests leave with the feeling that they've brushed up against history itself, touched by the lingering spirits of people whose creativity shaped an era. Whether the apparitions are real or simply products of the imagination, the Chelsea Hotel continues to inspire stories, just as it has for well over a century. In its halls, life and death, art and tragedy, the past and present all seem to coexist. Those who come looking for a unique stay in New York might just find themselves sharing it with the ghosts of legends. And perhaps, if they listen closely enough, hearing the faint echoes of poetry, music, and voices that refuse to be forgotten. On the quiet, desolate shores of Staten Island's Arthur Kill lies a place unlike any other. The Staten Island Tugboat Graveyard, officially known as the Vita Marine Scrapyard. It is both a final resting place for decommissioned vessels and a surreal reminder of New York's deep maritime history. Here, the skeletal remains of rusted tugboats, barges, and ferries sit half-submerged in the shallow waters, their corroded hulls jutting from the surface like the bones of long-dead sea creatures. Some of these ships date back more than a century, their stories as weathered and mysterious as the waters they once navigated. In the light of day, the site already feels ghostly, a tangle of twisted steel, collapsing decks, and rotting timbers. Seagulls circle overhead, and the smell of salt, rust, and decay hangs heavy in the air. But as the sun sets, the atmosphere shifts into something far more unsettling. Locals and daring visitors say that when darkness falls, the graveyard seems to awaken. Strange lights flicker over the water, not the glow of modern ships or distant buildings, but small, hovering orbs that dance just above the surface before vanishing into the night. These lights, often described as a pale blue or ghostly white, have baffled witnesses for decades. Some believe they are the lanterns of phantom sailors, forever searching for their lost ships. Others think they are a natural phenomenon, perhaps caused by gases escaping from the decomposing wood and metal. Yet, those who have seen them up close insist they carry an intelligence, as if the lights are aware of being watched. The sounds that drift from the graveyard are even more chilling. On windless nights, when the water lies still, visitors report hearing the faint toll of ship bells. These tones are soft, almost distant, yet unmistakable, echoing across the water as if calling out from another time. No functioning vessels remain here to ring such bells, and the sound seems to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Some who have ventured too close to the wrecks tell of hearing the rhythmic splash of oars cutting through water, despite no boats in sight. The sound approaches slowly, growing louder, as though an unseen vessel is drawing near through thick, invisible fog. Moments later, ghostly voices emerge, muffled, deep, and urgent. They call out to each other in tones that are both commanding and desperate, but the words are often impossible to understand. A few witnesses claim to have heard clear warnings shouted in old nautical terms, as though the men are forever navigating some unseen storm. These encounters are not limited to the shoreline. Fishermen working nearby have reported sudden chills sweeping through their boats, followed by the sensation of being watched from the water. One man swore he saw the figure of a sailor, soaked to the skin, his clothes in tatters, standing knee-deep among the wrecks before fading into the darkness. Another recalled seeing a hand, pale and dripping. The legends tied to the tugboat graveyard suggest that many of these spirits belong to men who perished at sea and never made it home. Some may have gone down with their ships during storms in New York Harbor, their bodies lost to the tides. Others may have been victims of wartime naval disasters or accidents in the city's once bustling ports. The graveyard, with its rusted hulks and silent waters, seems to act as a beacon for these restless souls, a place where the dead return to the remnants of the world they knew. Even those who don't believe in ghosts admit that the site carries a strange energy. The wrecks, weathered by decades of wind and tide, tell silent stories of hard work, danger, and the relentless pull of the sea. The skeletal frames seem almost alive, creaking and groaning when the tide shifts, as if whispering to each other in a language long forgotten. Standing on the shore, it's easy to imagine the ghostly shapes of ships drifting in and out of the fog, their decks crowded with men who never truly left, whether one sees it as a haunting or simply a monument to maritime history. The Staten Island tugboat graveyard is a place where the line between past and present feels thin, and the lingering sense that you are never truly alone. Hyde Hall, perched on the scenic shores of Otsego Lake in Cooperstown, is one of the most striking examples of neoclassical architecture in the United States. Built in the early 19th century by George Clark, the mansion was intended to be a lavish family estate, symbolizing wealth, influence, and refined tastes. Its expansive grounds, ornate interiors, and commanding views of the lake reflect a time when grandeur and status were expressed through stone and symmetry. There's a thread of the uncanny. Whispers and footsteps from those who may never have left. The house, restored to much of its original splendor, draws thousands of visitors each year for its history and architecture. But many arrive curious for another reason entirely. The stories of ghostly presences said to linger in its corridors. Guests and staff alike speak of moments when the air seems to change, a sudden drop in temperature, the feeling of being watched, or the sound of movement where none should be. It is as though Hyde Hall is both a monument to the past and a stage on which that past continues to play out, long after the final curtain should have fallen. One of the most frequently reported phenomena is the sound of footsteps. These are not the random creaks of an old house settling, but deliberate, steady steps, sometimes approaching, sometimes moving away, always without visible source. They echo down the hallways late at night, or drift from an unoccupied room. Guests have followed the sounds, expecting to find another person, only to be met with empty spaces and still air. The steps stop abruptly, leaving behind an unnerving silence that seems almost intentional, as if whoever is making them knows they are being pursued. Doors, too, have their own strange behavior here. Visitors have witnessed them opening slowly and smoothly on their own, as though guided by an unseen hand. On some occasions, they close just as deliberately. The hinges are well oiled, the mechanisms sound, and yet the movements occur in rooms without drafts or people nearby. For some, this is the most unsettling of all. A reminder that these spaces may not be as empty as they appear. Shadowy figures have also been reported gliding through the halls. Often seen in peripheral vision, they vanish when one turns to look directly, Their outlines are indistinct, not clearly male or female, young or old, but there is an unmistakable human form to them. Some believe these are servants from the estate's heyday, moving about their duties as they did 2 centuries ago. Others think they may be members of the Clark family themselves, bound by memory to the home they once cherished. Perhaps the most famous account from Hyde Hall involves the sound of a woman sobbing in one of the upstairs bedrooms. The weeping is soft, mournful, and unbroken, as if the grief behind it is bottomless. It has been heard by multiple witnesses over the years, sometimes during tours, sometimes in the quiet hours after dark when the house is closed. The source of this sorrow is unknown. Perhaps a widow, perhaps a mother mourning a lost child, but it carries an emotional weight that leaves listeners shaken. Paranormal investigators have also been drawn to Hyde Hall, eager to document the strange occurrences. In several cases, they have captured EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, while recording in empty rooms. The voices are often faint, overlapping, and indistinct, but some have been described as sounding like casual conversation, as though multiple people were discussing something just out of earshot. These recordings have fueled speculation that the house holds residual echoes of its vibrant past, moments imprinted so deeply on the environment that they continue to replay themselves. Not all experiences here are frightening. Some visitors speak of a sense of calm, even warmth, in certain rooms, as if welcomed by a presence rather than warned away. These moments give rise to the belief that not every spirit tied to Hyde Hall is troubled or restless. For some, perhaps, this was a place of deep happiness, a home to return to, even in death. The blend of beauty and mystery makes Hyde Hall unique among haunted locations. It is not a place of violent history or dark secrets, but rather one steeped in memory, where the echoes of laughter, work, sorrow, and daily life seem unwilling to fade. Whether the activity here is the result of intelligent spirits, residual energy, or the vivid imagination of those who walk its halls, one truth remains. Hyde Hall holds the past close, as if reluctant to let it go. Standing in its great rooms, with sunlight spilling through tall windows and the lake glimmering in the distance, it is easy to imagine the lives once lived here. And in the quiet between footsteps, one might just hear the faintest trace of voices that have not spoken in more than 100 years. A reminder that history is never entirely silent. Central Park, the green heart of Manhattan, is known worldwide for its sprawling lawns, winding paths, and vibrant life. It is a place where New Yorkers and tourists alike come to escape the constant pulse of the city. But when the sun sets and the crowds thin, a different side of the park emerges, one that few see, and even fewer dare to explore. Beneath its beauty and history lies a quieter, darker layer, where whispers of the past linger in the shadows and strange presences roam among the trees. While Central Park is filled with light during the day, certain areas take on an entirely different atmosphere at night. The Ramble, a dense woodland near the center of the park, is one such place. Its winding, maze-like trails and thick canopy of trees seem to muffle the sounds of the city, creating an eerie isolation. Visitors have reported feeling an uncanny sense of being watched here, even when the paths appear empty. Streetlights filter through the leaves in pale, broken shafts, casting shapes that shift with the wind, and the air often carries a damp, earthy scent that seems older than the park itself. It is in the Ramble that the figure of a spectral man has been most frequently reported. Witnesses describe him as dressed in old-fashioned clothing, a long, dark coat, a vest, and a wide-brimmed hat, the kind worn in the late 19th century. His face is pale, almost blurred, as though not fully formed, and he seems to appear out of nowhere, standing still and silent before fading away as quickly as he came. Those who have seen him often report a sudden drop in temperature and an overwhelming sense of sadness, as if the air itself is heavy with grief. Some believe he may be the ghost of a man who met an untimely end in the park's early years, when crime and poverty sometimes turned its pathways into dangerous places after nightfall. Another recurring phenomenon involves the sound of a horse and carriage. a reminder of the park's earliest days, when wealthy New Yorkers would ride through its scenic drives in elegant coaches. Witnesses say the sound is unmistakable. The rhythmic clop of hooves on pavement. These sounds often come from behind, yet when people turn to look, the path is empty. The experience is especially common near Bethesda Terrace, where the grand staircases and stone balustrades have stood since the 1860s. The echoing arches beneath the terrace seem to trap and amplify sounds, and on quiet nights, they have been known to carry the ghostly cadence of hooves passing by in the darkness. Some believe the carriage sounds are tied to a tragic incident from the park's early days. Rumors tell of a driver who lost control of his horses near the lake, causing the carriage to crash. The driver and his passengers, according to some versions, drowned when the carriage tumbled into the water. While no official record confirms the tale, the story has persisted for generations, and the phantom hoofbeats may be the echo of that fatal ride. Bethesda Terrace itself carries its own reputation for strange occurrences. Visitors sometimes see fleeting movements in their peripheral vision while standing at the top of the stairs, only to find no one nearby. Others have described the sensation of someone brushing past them in the crowd, even when the terrace is empty. The fountain, with its angel statue presiding over the water, has been the site of unexplained chills, and a few visitors have even reported hearing soft weeping coming from the benches nearby. The sound fades if one tries to follow it, always seeming just a few steps ahead. In the still hours of the night, the park takes on an almost otherworldly silence. The hum of the city seems distant, and the vast lawns and meadows appear frozen in time. In this quiet, the boundaries between past and present seem to blur. Those who wander here alone speak of glimpses, a shadow moving quickly between the trees, or the faint silhouette of a man leaning against a lamppost, only to vanish when approached. The sense of being watched grows stronger the deeper one goes, and it is not uncommon for visitors to cut their walks short after feeling a sudden and inexplicable wave of unease. The park's history is long, and not all of it is bright. Before it was built in the mid-1800s, the land was home to small communities, including Seneca Village, a predominantly African-American settlement that was displaced to make way for the park. Some wonder if the lingering presences in Central Park are connected not just to tragic accidents, but to the displacement and loss tied to its creation. Layers of history often leave echoes, and in a place as old and storied as this, those echoes may take the form of restless spirits. While most people know Central Park for its beauty, music, and laughter, it holds secrets that only emerge when the night deepens and the crowds are gone. The spectral man in the ramble, the phantom carriage on the paths, the whispers and footsteps that have no source. These hauntings remind us that even the most familiar places can harbor mysteries. In Central Park, the past is never truly gone. It waits in the quiet corners, in the rustle of leaves, in the soft rhythm of ghostly hooves, ready to reveal itself to those who dare to wander too far after dark. Perched on the edge of the Niagara River, where the waters rush toward Lake Ontario, Old Fort Niagara has stood for centuries as both a military stronghold and a silent witness to history's most turbulent moments. Built in the late 1600s by the French, the fort changed hands between France, Britain, and the United States over the years, enduring battles, sieges, and countless acts of treachery. Today, its thick stone walls and weathered ramparts still hold echoes of its bloody past, and if the stories are to be believed, the restless spirits of those who met their end here. The most famous of these phantoms is the headless French soldier, a figure whose gruesome end is tied to a tale of betrayal, honor, and an ill-fated duel. As the story goes, during the French occupation of the fort in the mid-18th century, two soldiers stationed within the barracks became embroiled in a bitter feud. The reasons vary with each telling. Some say it was over a woman, others claim it was a dispute over gambling debts. Whatever the cause, it ended with steel drawn and tempers flaring. In the early morning fog, the men faced each other in the courtyard. The duel was swift and brutal. One soldier's blade found its mark, severing his opponent's head in a single strike. What happened next remains a mystery. Some versions claim the killer, racked with regret, attempted to hide the body by casting it into a nearby well. Others say the victim's remains were hastily buried within the fort's walls, never to receive a proper burial. But it is said that since that day, a headless figure has been seen wandering the grounds, particularly near the barracks where the duel took place. Those who have encountered him describe the apparition as unnervingly solid. A uniformed man with no head, moving silently, as if searching for something he lost. Guards in the 18th and 19th centuries wrote of strange nighttime patrols interrupted by the sound of heavy boots on the stones, only to find no living soul nearby. Even today, reenactors and staff members claim to have heard the same slow, deliberate footsteps echoing in the pre-dawn darkness, accompanied by an unshakable sense of being watched. Visitors touring the fort sometimes feel sudden, inexplicable drops in temperature when passing through the old barracks. Others have caught the sharp scent of gunpowder hanging in the still air, even when no historical demonstrations are taking place. Some guests report hearing the faint clang of metal, as though swords are clashing somewhere just out of sight, or the muffled boom of a distant cannon. The fort's haunting is not limited to the headless soldier. In the ancient Powder magazine, voices in French have been recorded when the room was empty, leading some to believe other long-dead soldiers still linger. Tour guides have spoken of seeing shadowy figures dart between the stone walls, vanishing before they can be followed. The eerie sound of water dripping has been reported deep underground, though no visible source can be found. During the quiet winter months, when the tourists are gone and snow blankets the ramparts, the fort takes on an even more haunted atmosphere. Staff locking up at night speak of lantern-like lights glowing along the walls, bobbing as if carried by invisible hands. One guard, working a late shift, claimed to see a soldier in full French regalia standing at the far end of the courtyard. Thinking it was part of a reenactment, he approached, only for the figure to dissolve into mist as he got within a few feet. Legends also persist about an underground tunnel that once connected the fort to the riverbank, used for secret escapes and smuggling. Some say the tunnel is cursed, and that those who venture too far into its depths hear the anguished cries of the dead echoing from the darkness. Though the tunnel has long since been sealed, visitors have reported hearing muffled voices or feeling a cold hand brush against their skin when standing near its supposed entrance. The natural setting adds to the unease. The fort's location at the mouth of the Niagara River places it at a strategic and often deadly crossroads in history. Many battles for control over the Great Lakes played out here, leaving the ground soaked in blood. It's said that on quiet nights, when the wind is just right, you can hear the shouts of soldiers and the splash of oars as phantom boats approach from the water. Some have even claimed to see these ghostly vessels, lit by flickering lanterns, drifting silently across the river before fading into the mist. Old Fort Niagara's enduring reputation as one of the most haunted sites in New York is as much about atmosphere as it is about the stories themselves. Whether the headless French soldier is still searching for his lost head, or whether the echoes of centuries-old battles simply refuse to fade, the fort remains a place where history and the supernatural intertwine. For those brave enough to visit, the experience is unforgettable. By day, Old Fort Niagara is a living museum, filled with the sounds of historical demonstrations and the bustle of curious tourists. But as night falls and the shadows lengthen, the mood shifts. The air grows colder, the walls seem to close in, and the ghosts of centuries past rise to reclaim their ancient home. The New Amsterdam Theater on 42nd Street is a glittering jewel in Manhattan's Broadway district. Its ornate design and rich history making it one of the most celebrated stages in the world. Built in 1903, it was home to legendary productions, including the Ziegfeld Follies, which brought glamour, music, and dazzling performances to New York audiences. But behind the gold leaf and velvet curtains, the theater has a reputation for something far less glamorous. It is said to be haunted by the ghost of Olive Thomas, a showgirl whose tragic end has forever linked her spirit to the building. Olive Thomas was the very embodiment of the 1920s stage star, known for her beauty, charm, and vivacious personality. She was a beloved performer of the Ziegfeld Follies and later became a rising Hollywood actress. In 1920, while visiting her husband, actor Jack Pickford, in Paris, Olive died suddenly under mysterious circumstances. The official story claimed she ingested mercury bichloride, a toxic substance used to treat Jack's syphilis. She was only 25 years old. Her death shocked the entertainment world, and in the years that followed, whispers began to spread among the New Amsterdam's staff and performers that Olive had never truly left the stage she adored. The earliest reports came from stagehands who worked late into the night. They described seeing a striking woman, dressed in a beaded green costume and feathered headdress, walking silently across the stage before vanishing into the wings. Her beauty was unmistakable, but so was the sense that she wasn't entirely alive. The legend grew when ushers began reporting encounters of their own. One usher claimed he was locking up the theater late one night when he noticed a reflection in one of the lobby's ornate mirrors. A young woman smiling warmly at him. He turned to speak, but the space beside him was empty. Yet, when he glanced back at the mirror, there she was again, lifting her hand as if to blow him a kiss. It was then he realized he had just seen Olive Thomas, the theater's most famous ghost. Over the years, Olive's presence became a part of the theater's identity. Staff members, especially those who worked backstage, began following a peculiar tradition, greeting Olive aloud before starting their shifts. They would say something along the lines of, "Good morning, Olive," or "Hello, Olive, hope you enjoy the show," believing that acknowledging her kept her in good spirits and prevented mischief. Some who failed to greet her claimed strange things happened. Props going missing, lights flickering at critical moments, and doors slamming shut with no one nearby. One performer recounted how, during a rehearsal, the stage suddenly went pitch black, and she felt a soft, playful tap on her shoulder. When the lights returned, she was alone, but the prop she had been holding had mysteriously disappeared. Perhaps the most unnerving encounters are those in which Olive appears in full detail. A few lucky, or unlucky, individuals have reported seeing her in her full Follies costume, complete with sparkling beads, white plumes, and a coy smile. She often materializes in the balcony or at the back of the theater, leaning casually against a wall as if waiting for her cue. She never speaks, but witnesses say she seems genuinely pleased to be watching the performances. One stagehand recalled a moment late at night, when he was adjusting scenery for an upcoming show. Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed someone standing in the shadows near the orchestra pit. Thinking it was another crew member, he called out, but the figure didn't respond. Stepping closer, he realized it was a woman in an elaborate costume from another era. She smiled faintly, blew a kiss, and disappeared into thin air. The New Amsterdam's management doesn't shy away from Olive's ghostly fame. In fact, during theater tours, guides often mention her story, pointing out that she seems particularly fond of the male staff. Male ushers and stagehands are the most likely to receive one of her spectral kisses, and several have sworn they felt a cool breeze against their cheek when no one was near. Not all of her appearances are lighthearted though. Some workers say they felt an inexplicable heaviness in the air when passing certain backstage corridors. In these moments, the theater feels less like a palace of dreams and more like a place where time stands still, trapping memories and emotions in its lavish walls. Yet, despite her tragic history, Olive Thomas's ghost is far from malevolent. She seems to be a spirit of joy and charm, still attached to the theater she loved in life. Her visits are more like affectionate reminders that Broadway's golden age lives on, not only in history books, but in the very air of the New Amsterdam. At least one staff member will greet Olive, ensuring she knows she is welcome. Whether she's leaning in the balcony, wandering backstage, or blowing kisses from the shadows, Olive Thomas remains the eternal star of the New Amsterdam Theater, a beautiful ghost forever taking her place in the spotlight. Mount Misery, a remote and heavily wooded area on Long Island, has earned its ominous name through centuries of unsettling stories and whispered legends. For generations, locals have avoided it after dark, speaking in hushed tones about the tragedies and strange occurrences tied to its soil. The land is dense with gnarled trees, narrow dirt paths, and an atmosphere so heavy that visitors often describe feeling as though the forest itself is watching them. To many, it's not just a place, it's an entity that does not welcome the living. The most persistent legend surrounding Mount Misery dates back to the 18th and 19th centuries, when it was said that a small hospital for the mentally ill was built deep in the woods. The institution, according to the tales, was designed to keep its patients hidden from the public eye. Back then, mental illness was poorly understood, and such facilities were often underfunded, overcrowded, and inhumane. Patients reportedly endured brutal conditions, restrained for days at a time, subjected to crude treatments, and left to wander in the open forest when staff lost control. The story goes that one fateful night, a fire swept through the wooden structure. Some say it began in the kitchen. Others insist it was the act of a patient seeking escape. Regardless of the cause, the flames spread quickly, engulfing the hospital in minutes. The screams of those trapped inside echoed across the woods, and the heat was so intense that by morning, nothing remained but charred beams and blackened earth. The official record, if there ever was one, has been lost or buried, but the land still seems to hold on to the memory. Hikers and late-night thrill-seekers claim to see ghostly patients wandering the undergrowth, their pale forms barely visible through the fog. They shuffle aimlessly, wearing tattered hospital gowns that billow in the wind, their faces gaunt and eyes hollow. Some appear badly burned, their outlines flickering as if made of smoke. The most unnerving accounts come from those who have heard faint cries or piercing screams in the dead of night, carrying unnaturally far on the wind only to have the forest fall silent a moment later. A few visitors have described encounters that seem almost too real. One man recounted stopping in the woods to catch his breath when a woman in a soiled white gown emerged from the trees. She moved slowly, her hands reaching out as if for help. Before he could react, she dissolved into the mist, leaving behind only a sharp drop in temperature and a deep, suffocating dread. Another story tells of a group of friends who camped overnight, only to be awoken by the sound of footsteps circling their tents, soft, deliberate, and accompanied by faint, labored breathing. When they unzipped the flap, nothing was there. Even those who don't see or hear the spirits often describe an overwhelming sense of wrongness. The ground in certain spots feels spongy, as if it's hiding something beneath. Compasses sometimes malfunction, spinning aimlessly. Birds go silent without warning. Some visitors have walked for hours in what they thought was a straight line, only to end up back where they started. It's as if the forest bends around them, guiding or trapping them at will. Local lore suggests that Mount Misery's unsettling nature predates the hospital fire. Indigenous people in the area reportedly avoided the hill long before European settlers arrived, believing the land was cursed or inhabited by malevolent forces. They spoke of strange lights flickering in the trees and of people who entered the area, never to return. Settlers who later attempted to farm the land found the soil barren and hard to till, as though the earth itself rejected cultivation. Adding to the mystique are the strange lights reported over the years. Some witnesses describe glowing orbs drifting silently between the trees, changing color as they move. Others have seen flashes of blue or white light in the distance, vanishing when approached. These lights often appear in conjunction with the sound of phantom oars splashing, though there is no water nearby. Skeptics have tried to explain the lights as swamp gas or reflections, but the accounts persist. Paranormal investigators who have ventured into Mount Misery have reported capturing electronic voice phenomena, disembodied voices recorded on audio equipment. Some of the whispers are unintelligible, while others seem to form words like help or leave. Video footage has shown unexplained mists forming in otherwise clear air, sometimes moving with an apparent purpose toward the camera before dissipating. Even in daylight, Mount Misery holds its menace. The canopy blocks much of the sun, leaving the ground in perpetual shadow. Fallen branches twist like skeletal fingers, and the air smells faintly of damp earth and decay. The wind through the trees can sound eerily like sighing or whispering. Locals often warn newcomers not to underestimate the place simply because it looks calm during the day. Many believe that whatever lingers there can sense intent, and that it may follow those who disrespect the land. Over the years, the legends have attracted thrill seekers, amateur ghost hunters, and the occasional historian trying to piece together the truth. Some leave with nothing more than a good scare. Others leave abruptly, pale and shaken, refusing to talk about what they saw. For those who believe, Mount Misery is more than a haunted place. It's a scar on the land. A place where the suffering of the past bleeds into the present, and where the dead still wander beneath the trees, unseen but never truly gone. If you find yourself in Long Island and hear the name Mount Misery whispered in conversation, you might feel tempted to see it for yourself. But be warned, the forest is not forgiving. Whether the stories of the burned asylum are fact or folklore, the darkness there feels real enough, and the spirits, if they exist, seem eager to remind the living that some places are meant to be left alone. The Erie Canal, an engineering marvel of the 19th century, wends its way across New York State, connecting the Hudson River to the Great Lakes, stretching hundreds of miles. It transformed trade and travel, carrying barges laden with goods, passengers, and dreams. Yet beneath its history of progress and prosperity lies a darker, quieter legacy, one steeped in tragedy, loss, and the lingering presence of those who never left its waters or shores. From its construction in the early 1800s to the present day, the canal has claimed lives. In the beginning, workers labored under grueling conditions, carving the waterway through wilderness with shovels, picks, and sheer determination. Accidents were common, walls of dirt collapsing into trenches, tools slipping in weary hands, and sudden storms turning the unfinished cuts into deadly traps. Some men were buried where they fell, their bodies never recovered, swallowed by the earth that would soon form the canal's bed. Once the canal opened, a different kind of danger emerged. The slow-moving barges, drawn by teams of horses and mules along narrow towpaths, still posed risks. Bargemen often worked in darkness, navigating the murky waters by lantern light. Many fell overboard in icy weather or during late-night crossings, their cries swallowed by the mist before help could arrive. Children, too, sometimes perished, playing too close to the edges or riding the animals that pulled the boats. It is said that these souls still wander the Erie Canal's banks, in quiet towns along the route, places like Lockport, Lyons, and Little Falls. Locals whisper of strange encounters. On foggy nights, ghostly lanterns have been seen bobbing along the towpaths, moving steadily forward before vanishing into the mist. Witnesses insist there is no living person holding them, only the faint glow of light and the creak of invisible ropes pulling unseen loads. Equally unsettling are the reports of phantom horses. Travelers have described hearing the rhythmic clop of hooves on hard-packed dirt, followed by the faint splash of water and the groan of wooden barges. Yet when they turn to look, the towpath is empty. The sounds fade into silence, leaving only the still water and the rustle of reeds. In certain stretches, people claim to see full apparitions. Canal workers in 19th century clothing, trudging silently along the banks. Their faces are often obscured by shadow or hidden beneath hats, but their forms are solid enough to startle passers-by. These figures do not seem to acknowledge the living. Instead, they move as if trapped in their final tasks, repeating them over and over for eternity. One of the more chilling tales comes from the area near Rome, New York, where a barge reportedly capsized in the mid-1800s during a sudden squall. Several crew members drowned before help could arrive. Modern visitors to the area have told of hearing desperate shouts in the darkness and the frantic splash of water, only for the sounds to stop abruptly. Some even claim they've seen pale, dripping hands clutching at the canal's edge before slipping away into the depths. In other places, the hauntings take on a quieter, more melancholic tone. Residents in older canal towns have described feeling an unshakable sense of sadness while walking near the water at night. A cold breeze may sweep past on still evenings, carrying with it the faint scent of damp rope, wet earth, and something metallic. like the temps of rust or old blood. Dogs sometimes refuse to walk along certain sections, growling at nothing or pulling their owners away from the banks. Paranormal investigators have explored the canal's length, capturing unusual activity. EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, have revealed muffled conversations, the distant toll of a bell, and the call of unseen men urging horses forward. In one recording, a faint voice was heard, repeating the word lock, as though reminding someone to prepare for the next gate in the canal system. Despite these eerie tales, life continues along the Erie Canal. Today it serves more for recreation than commerce, with pleasure boats, hikers, and cyclists enjoying its paths. Yet even in daylight, some areas carry a strange weight, as though the air remembers. Visitors sometimes feel watched, sensing unseen eyes, tracking them from the water or from the shadow of an old lockhouse. For many, the canal's haunting nature is not about fear, but about connection, a reminder that history lives on, that the men, women, and children who built and traveled this waterway left their mark, not only in stone and water, but in something far more intangible. The Erie Canal is both a monument to human achievement and a memorial to those who gave their lives to it. On still nights, when the fog rolls in and the world grows quiet, the past draws close. The distant glow of a lantern might appear, swaying gently as if carried by a weary hand. The sound of hooves may echo softly along the towpath, and if you listen closely, you might hear a voice, not quite in this world, yet not entirely gone, calling out across the dark waters of the Erie Canal. And so, our journey through New York's most haunted places comes to an end. From the glittering lights of Manhattan to the shadowed ruins of forgotten asylums, we have walked in the footsteps of the dead, felt the brush of unseen hands, and heard the echoes of voices that refuse to fade. Perhaps these are just stories, whispered down through the years, shaped by imagination and fear. Or perhaps, in the still hours of the night, when the city is quiet and the wind carries the scent of something ancient, the past truly does rise again. If you ever find yourself near one of these places, stop and listen. Watch the corners of your vision. Pay attention to that sudden chill that wasn't there a moment ago. Because in New York, history is never silent, and sometimes it watches you back. Sleep well, if you can.